answered your question.
Yeah, and my bigger question is, how do you do what you do and make sure that you're aligned with the bigger age-friendly initiatives that are going on in your community to make sure you're supporting them and not just sort of going off?
I think one of the things that's really critical.
Props in there ready. I didn't want to have that distract, but I have my age-friendly principles, which I always refer to, and all 8 of them are there. I know you're not quite seeing it all, but age-friendly is at the heart of all of our work. In the project, every project is iterative, and it has a chance to build on everything that was done before. So I didn't tell you anything about the $100 million of development in downtown Metuchen that brought 387 apartment units. And by the way, the group that has most selected that is our older adults. I didn't tell anything about how we redid all the sidewalks on Main Street. We're doing a complete streets project as we speak. Now that's going to be a few years out before it's completed. And even this Imagination Alley project, we put it in the context of this bigger picture about how we're revitalizing a downtown to make it a center to bring people together. So, the selection of a project is crucial, and you don't want to randomly select it. Rather, you want to be strategic and make sure it fits in with the bigger narrative. I think I heard Christine talking.
Thank you.
Yeah, Judy, I was just going to add to that. So some of the other creative placemaking projects we've done in the age-friendly space, one of the things that I think is really important to keep in mind is, what is your age-friendly action plan? Because all of these communities have one. And how do these projects advance a specific item in that plan? That's especially in the beginning in these like visioning sessions and discussions. It's great when you have all this creativity, but it's that idea of how do you keep it like focused, and the age-friendly lens and the age-friendly structure does that, because you've got those 8 domains of livability. You've got an action plan for those. So it's saying, how can we advance that work using creative placemaking as a tactic? So we've done things like in Garfield, part of their age-friendly action plan was to get older adults really sort of like more visible in the community, as well as having collaborative partnerships. So we did a pop-up park project, a park improvement project that focused specifically on that, right? So the marketing around it was really about Generations for Garfield. It worked with, I think, 6 other really influential nonprofits in the area to help like strengthen those partnerships. So it's, how do you use these projects as a tool to advance those age-friendly practices?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for the context.
Yeah, it's context, but it's also really, it's a smart strategy, because you're not just coming to people to talk to them about stuff. You're actually changing the way things look and using that as an invitation to go a level deeper and talk about age-friendly. And I didn't share it because it's so new, but we just closed a whole street, half of a street. We call it the New Streetery because it's on New Street, but it's also an outdoor place where people can dine. But our mayor, our Chamber of Commerce, a dozen businesses joined together to make this permanently available throughout the pandemic to expand our outdoor dining options. And that's just one of the projects that's being facilitated by our age-friendly grant, by our community challenge grant. So use the project to connect people to the bigger discussion. Don't plan and talk and wait for a year and then do something. Do something first, or do something early on that'll get buy-in for age-friendly down the road.
Can I ask a question, Isaac?
Yeah.
How do you address local partisanship and partisan politics?
Well, I'm a nonprofit leader, so according to the IRS, that we can't endorse candidates, and we need to be able to be effective. We need to be nonpartisan. Strictly nonpartisan. But I'm a realist. We're working in areas that can often be divided. One of the best books on the subject, if you haven't read it, I'd strongly encourage it. It's influenced my whole career. It's a book by the title Practical Politics. And basically the whole thesis is how we get past partisanship. And what most people in most communities have found is that most people just want their place better, right? And if you can deliver on that, you become a trusted leader in that community. People look to you to give them more better. But the other way I put it is this. In a negatively charged environment, negative people tend to dominate. The way you break that cycle, though, is you're a positive person and you bring other positive people together and you do stuff and you get momentum. And over time, the negative people fall away because, again, most people just want it to be better.
Antron, can you add to that?
I mean, I think everything, you know, Isaac and Christine have been saying, it's exactly what we're doing here in Massachusetts. You know, it's a model that, you know, we're all following, and you know, being nonpartisan is how we have to be. And it's not the political issue, but it's more of what helps the community become a better place for everyone on both sides of the table. So.
And I think two other things with this are, one, you know, to Isaac's point, very few people are going to say, no, I don't want my community to be a great place for folks to live at any age, right? So when you show projects like this, where you take underutilized, in some cases, unsafe spaces and transform them into a place of, you know, art and socialization for communities, that's a hard thing to have someone say, oh no, I don't want pretty things in my community that bring folks together. The other thing too is, you know, we've talked a lot about permanence in this case, but another tactic, if you are concerned about sort of buy-in from specific groups, is some of these projects you can do as, you know, semi-permanent or just temporary, right? Like that real tactical urbanism pop-up. So it's more of a demonstration project. You're not putting something permanent in place.
Like an installation.
Testing something, right? And then, you know, so that can sometimes alleviate some pushback because it's just temporary. We're just seeing how it goes. We're piloting. But then when it goes really well, now you've got the case to make that permanence.
Well, an iterative approach builds on that too. So we'll do something little today, like put a chair out. Like literally in the time it took for us to be on this call and this conference this morning, all of you could have placed a chair outside of wherever you're at into the public realm and done placemaking. Right? And it has the potential to bring people together and build community and maybe even seed the discussions that we're trying to have about age-friendly and livability. So you can never let the big project or the big fix get in the way of taking action today. You know, you gotta blackmail yourself. You gotta commit, you know, to demonstrating your values, demonstrating your vision, going out and doing stuff. And if you do that, I guarantee you, it will cycle back into your work. Your vision will become refined. It will become stronger. You will have more allies. You will have more money. So, you know, the biggest credit I can give to Christine and her team is that $5,000 that they provided. It's since helped us attract close to $250,000 of additional funding, and we've transformed the whole neighborhood at this point. So, but without that $5,000, without that vote of confidence from AARP, Metuchen might have still had people mowing, people might have still been hit on the sidewalks when the cars were going through the alley. So, so those small investments, those calculated bets that you make, they can have a huge impact moving forward, and they can really enliven your work with age friendly.
So what happens in wintertime? I mean, all of these projects are outdoors, summer oriented, maybe even fall. How do you build on all this good stuff that you've created and move it indoors and still be, you know, as
you're a star student, Mira, because you're anticipating my presentation on Thursday with Downtown New Jersey, which is titled "Winning Winter." How to make cash registers ring when the temperatures dip. But there's no reason we should be limited to 2 or 3 seasons. That, you know, we can operate in 4 seasons. There are considerations about safety and ice and slipping and all of that that need to be attended to, but primarily it's a mindset shift that needs to happen. You know, that we can socialize, that we can come outdoors together. One of my favorite ideas, and I have about 50 that I'm going to highlight in that talk, is about making a fire pit and cooking s'mores with people in public. And just small groups of people coming together.
Right.
It's also what we call LBOH, which is little bit of happy. And you can be happy in winter, even everything's cold and dying and around you. Use light, use heat, use ice sculptures. Get people to knit scarves and wrap them around trees. There's the only limit is your imagination and your creativity.
I've seen this in Disney with the fire pits and the marshmallows, and it definitely looks like a lot of fun.
It's true. And since none of us are going to Disney right now, let's do it in downtown, wherever.
Make our own Disney.
Or in your backyard. So you can do it. I give you permission. Go out and spread happiness and joy and bring people together and build community and make better places.
I'll definitely be taking away LBOH, a little bit of happiness. It goes a long way. It does.
That's part of my survival kit as a nonprofit director, and I'm happy to share it and have you add it to yours.
Now, Christine, you've awarded startup small projects. What are some of the examples you have that are going to work in the winter that you've been able to fund through the ARP?
So I can speak to New Jersey. Again, one of the projects we did in Garfield was a park. And I mean, think about the places you go year round. I still go to parks when it's cold outside. I love walking around, like, when it's brisk out. I think too, it's about how you add in other elements that are experiential. Again, sort of Isaac was just talking about like fire pits. I love it when I go to some of these little pop-up parklets in the winter that have maybe like a hot cocoa bar, or, just something that adds to almost that magic that we feel during the winter. And I would say Imagination Alley. I mean, it's not like Imagination Alley shuts down, in cold weather. It's a different experience for folks that go through that space during that time. So I think it's about how you just sort of modify elements of existing projects so that it still is usable for the public year round. We've done some things that are more programmatic from our community challenge grants, like we've done like community pop-up farmers markets, things like that. So some of that it's seasonal. So it's thinking about what are the crops that are in season then, or if it's winter, again, what are some of those other maybe like comfort foods that you're bringing into the market at that time. But I think the project itself, they're still viable year round. It's just how you change specific elements of it.
I also just bought 65 electric heaters, which we're installing at 15 restaurants throughout our downtown.
That's amazing. That's wonderful.
It's something.
Yeah.
It's one of those orders when you place it on your credit card, you said, what am I here for? What am I doing? This is my job? Okay. Yeah, I guess it is. It's also very empowering though.
And Massachusetts has a lot of cold weather. So what would you suggest, Antron?
You know what? I knew that question was coming. I honestly haven't seen how our communities have adjusted to it. One, because a lot of our residents actually leave the state over the winter. So that kind of, I think you think about some of our key areas like Martha's Vineyard or the Cape, where it's a lot of transient kind of back and forth to snowbirds, I guess is what they call them here. The communities become a different place, and they're also kind of there's nobody's there, so people are at home. So it's like, how can we engage people in their own space even? So really, with COVID, obviously, how are we reaching people in the virtual kind of realm and engaging them in that manner and providing those opportunities for them to engage or stay engaged, I should say, over the winter. And I love what Isaac said. It's about, reimagining winter. It doesn't mean you can't get out of the house. You can't connect. Yeah, nobody likes being in the cold, but how do you make it warm? And I think that's real important.
Yeah, I don't know, Christine, maybe we need to send this up the flagpole with national, but winter and age-friendly and older adults. I think there's some real challenges, but maybe some big opportunities for us to lay some markers and show people how we're innovating here in Jersey.
Absolutely.
And I think to Christine's
Hey,
point,
I love this. You got to come on every one of my talks now. Like seriously, Thursday at 11 o'clock, downtown New Jersey. I'll make you a speaker.
Look, we tried to get Antron to come here, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then we were not going to let him go back.
Well, we got to write a better block project for all of New Jersey. And then we can invite our colleagues from Massachusetts to do a interstate idea exchange.
How can we do like a hackathon with ideas exchanged?
Yeah, we could take a weekend and like go do 5 activations all over Jersey.
So Isaac, are your 11 a.m. talks on Thursday open to the public? Where do you?
I think it is. Just look up downtown New Jersey. If it isn't, you can bug me and I'll make sure you get in.
Thank you.
Because I like to have some ringers in there.
Of course.
Mira, where are you?
I'm in Berkeley Heights in New Jersey.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're down the block from me.
Correct.
Great. Oh, good. Well, thank you all. But you can keep this conversation going. I just was room hopping and stayed here because this was great. And I think that's a real great challenge is how do we vision, I like that theme, winter, age friendly, New Jersey, and older adults. So thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Isaac.
EJ, what are you doing in Garfield?
So I actually am not in Garfield anymore. I am now the TNEC project coordinator.
Well, you've got a bigger community then.
We do have a big community. I do know that Garfield is gearing up. They have been doing a lot of food distributions. And so, in the summertime, we were really getting a lot of people coming out in Garfield. And then I think now that it's getting colder, people aren't coming out anymore. So it's invigorating people to come out and enjoy the community, even in the outdoor spaces. And then in TNEC, we had started up our Senior Citizens Advisory Board and hosting it outside now that it's not too hot and it's just at the perfect temperature. And so I think they're very excited. We are also doing our exercise programs outdoors under a tent. So we're able to do that. But I really like the idea of just putting chairs out and having people have conversations because, I think people are striving for conversations. They want them now. And so with the weather paring down the way it is, it'll be perfect.
EJ, I'm doing a run up to North Jersey every other week. I'll drop off a chair kit for you. Let's
I
connect
love that.
offline.
Yes.
You have to build it though.
One of the things that Garfield did that was really interesting and exciting from again, sort of like creating a sense of place, I thought during the pandemic was in one of their large senior apartment buildings, they actually had balcony exercise classes for folks. So they actually had an instructor that had a headset on with speakers so they could be heard up in the balconies, but you looked up and the residents were out on their balconies, again, being able to still feel that sense of community place and community connection during the pandemic. I just thought that was such a wonderful example of sort of creative placemaking during COVID-19.
And it was definitely great. We were able to, at least the first and second floor balcony seniors, we were able to toss up pieces of candy to them as a thank you. For everyone else, they had to come down.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's how I like to exercise. Exercise and then give me sugar. That's perfect.
Well, I have a bounty crop of squash. So if we want to bring in local food and healthy lifestyles, we could throw squash up to them too. Just saying, I'd offer it if people want it.
Although, Isaac, I will be honest, anytime I pass by a wooden pallet, I think of you. I think about how that needs to be turned
It's
into
like an
an
idea
Adirondack
meme.
chair.
It's right. It will be the way your rest of your life. Now, until you've actually built a chair, though, you haven't fulfilled your potential. So I want to help. I want to help guide you so that you too can chair bomb like the best of us all over. And
I drive a Mini Cooper, so it's been a little bit hard to try to fit a wooden pallet into that car.
Well, we'll have to get an electric saw for you so you can cut it up before you put it in the car. It's that easy. So we can
Isaac,
even like
I still
personalize
have the streaks of red paint in the top of my husband's Jeep from when we put the chair in the back. It's like my reminder every time he opens the hood, he's like, "Oh, right, that's from the pallet chair." I'm like,
I have a pair of pants that's literally soaked in white paint. And it was at the end of that ARP build that I was the last bucket of paint I was putting in the truck. But sure enough, the lid hadn't been put on and it leaned out towards me and just covered the car and me and the pavement. And I wear them whenever I'm working around the house. So, but happy memories. So, but from my end, I just want to end it like this, go out and do stuff. Find who your group of people are, that want to help make good things happen and just get into a habit of bringing continuous improvement to wherever your place is. And if you become identified as the person who's driving this, it has the potential to really elevate your role, but your organization, to build your network, to attract additional funding. And at the end of the day, we're storytellers. We're telling people a story about how to make their place better. And to involve them in that story. And if you do that well, then, your legacy is that you're going to leave the place better than you found it. And I think that's the most that any of us can ask for.
Very good. Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You got it. I'm following up, Antron, offline. We got to connect. So, all right. Good luck
Thank
to
you
you.
all.
Take
Thank
care.
you all.
Everyone.
Everybody.
See you.
Hi, is anyone else still going?